Hi guys, TotallyDubbed here, and today I'm doing a video review on the Sennheiser GSP 670 wireless. Now this is a gaming headset which will set you back a whopping £300. It's an eye-watering amount of money. Now in this review I'll be comparing it to its predecessor, its wired sibling, the GSP 500. And also comparing it to the Audio-Technica headset, which costs around £300 as well. That is also a wired headset. So without further ado, let's get into this review. So first of all, I want to talk about the actual build quality and what you get in the box. For £300, I would have expected a little bit more than just a headset and a cable and the wireless USB dongle. There's no extra alternatives, as in like a little pouch, for example, to put it away, or anything like that, or even any removable pads. So just bear that in mind, that when you're spending £300, this is exactly what you're going to get. Now, a little word on the manual. It's something I've come across in Sennheiser's MB headsets, but they're not the best. And I know this might be seeming trivial to some, but people will want to work out how to actually use it. There's basically no real description as to how to use it, other than the fact of little annotations, which is great for, you don't have to follow instructions with a certain language, but it's not the most intuitive thing in the world. Moving on from that, we've got the little USB dongle. The USB dongle is extremely small and lightweight. As you can see, you can plug this into a laptop or a PC, and it's got a button at the top in order to enable pairing. A micro USB to USB cable is provided. Now that is used for two things. One, to actually charge the headset if it runs out of battery, and two, for it to be actually used in wired mode as well. Speaking of which, battery life is quoted at around 16 to 20 hours of playback time. So worth bearing that in mind. At least that's on Sennheiser's website. Your mileage may vary depending on how much you interact with it and whatever have you. But 16-20 hours is plenty for your normal usage. So as I said, you can use it in wired mode as well as wireless mode, but what you'll probably be interested in this headset is actually the fact that it is a wireless gaming headset, so you don't have any wires to worry about. There is, however, one wire I would have liked to have seen, and that's a 3.5mm jack interconnect, and you might be wondering, why on earth would you want that? Well, simply if you wanted to plug it into your controller for consoles, for example. Instead, you have to use it either in USB mode or via the actual little dongle included. There's no optional extra to add it as a 3.5mm jack. Again, that might seem trivial to some, but again, we are talking about one of the most expensive gaming headsets you can currently find. Now on the headset itself, it's actually very chunky, and I'll wear it in a second so you guys can actually see how it looks like on my head. It's a little bit chunkier than the GSP 500 and certainly a little bit larger in terms of the look over the Audio-Technica headset. It's not the most aesthetically pleasing headset in the world. Personally, I don't really care about aesthetics because it's around my head, I'm not looking at it, but it's worth bearing in mind that I don't think this is the most alluring design to some gamers. I know there's no RGB lights on them, but who cares about RGB lights on headsets anyway? Now, one thing I do want to talk about is the functionalities of the headset. Now there's a mic mute flip, which you can probably see as it works, and there's like a little malleable material over here allowing you to adjust the actual microphone where it's positioned in front of your head. Now on the right hand cup you've got a little wheel. Now this little wheel adjusts the volume but also switches between modes, and the manual I talked about before, essentially you have to go all the way to one side and then it activates the wireless mode. If you do it a certain different way, it activates Bluetooth mode. Not the most intuitive controls in the world, to say the least, but it's worth bearing in mind. You've got also this as well, which is just the actual the microphone pickup as well, and then you've got an on and off toggle for Bluetooth, and then you've got a button over here which can be used to toggle extra settings. Other than that, the headset itself is really well built, I must say. It's got adjustable cups. They don't fully fold in or anything like that, but they've got adjustable cups which will swivel and everything. At the top you've got these little basically kind of suspender type design, which in other words, this will adjust the actual tension of the headband around your head, therefore acting like a suspender type, which is the ones which kind of sit in between your headband and your head. Nevertheless, the headset is very well aired, so it's great for long gaming sessions. So you're not gonna, if you sweat a lot, you're not gonna have any problem with that, or if you have long hair. The actual padding at the top is sufficient enough, and the padding around the cups themselves is plenty, to say the least. As I said before, I would have liked the fact that if I had some extra pads included in the box. However, that is not the case. And according to the manual, you can also remove the cups as well altogether, and bin them apparently. So there you have it. Now, in terms of comfort, I must say these headphones have quite a clamp to them. It's something I talked about with the GSP 500 beforehand, and this one feels like another extra step above. And I'm not really sure why Sennheiser go around with this, because ultimately this is a headset I'm going to be using at home. I'm not going to be using on the go, so I don't really care about how it's going to fall off my head if I'm doing a jog. Now, I wear glasses. I'm not wearing them right now, but I usually wear glasses. I know my doctor looking glasses. What I found is with them on, I felt that these headphones gave me a bit of a headache, to say the least. A lot of reviews don't actually talk about this in terms of the clamping force, and that's very important when it comes to a gaming headset, because you're going to be probably gaming for 2 hours or 1 to 2 hours minimum when you put them on. And specifically, a lot of people who are in front of a computer usually wear glasses of some sort or nature. So, and therefore, I would expect most reviews to pick it up. Most don't, but nevertheless, I do. And all I'm trying to say over here is the fact that the clamping force is pretty hard. Therefore, it's not very much comfortable in a long run, specifically if you wear glasses. So it's a shame, because all the padding at the top and the headband adjustment, and then the fact that the cups have a little bit of wiggle room, and the fact that the pads themselves are relatively thick, are all really great, but then the clamping force lets it down, which I'm not really sure why Sennheiser shot themselves in the foot over here. And now I'm back, and you can see how the headset actually looks like. Now, you might be wondering, why on earth has the sound quality changed? That's because everything you can hear right now is coming directly from the headset. So first of all, as I said before, the looks of it, you can see it's pretty chunky on the head. It looks really big, to say the least. And just bringing it down might be a bit weird in terms of sound quality as it's recording, but this is how it looks like around the neck. So just thought to show that as well. Now, putting the headset back on, right now I've got the headset basically playing through a recording software, and through the Sennheiser gaming suite, I've got it basically on no sort of adjustments that have been done. The reason I've done this is just so you guys can actually hear how the sound quality will sound like if you're plugging it into somewhere that doesn't have a software, for example, if you're using a console or whatever have you. Now, I first want to talk about the Bluetooth connectivity and actually the wireless connectivity before we go into the sound quality section and the recording quality section. So the wireless connectivity, Bluetooth wise, I had no problems. I put it onto my phone. It worked flawlessly without issue. I was a little bit disappointed to find it supports only the SBC codec, even though it's using Bluetooth 5.0. I would have liked to see the aptX or aptX HD codec or the LDAC codec. Given it's a £300 headset, you see headphones which are £300, wireless Bluetooth ones, and they support it. Yet some others don't. So I can understand that, but same case, I would have liked Sennheiser to support it. When it comes to wireless connectivity, and by that I mean via the dongle, I walked away from my PC about 10 meters or so. I had no problems whatsoever. I don't have a multi-floor house or whatever like that, so I can't test through different floors, but all I can say is that walking to a relatively good distance, I had no problems in terms of latency, and also in terms of the headset picking up, which is an issue I found previously with some of Sennheiser's business grade MB headsets. I think it's the MB360 on top of my head. So nevertheless, there wasn't a problem with here, and I had perfect compatibility with Windows 10, so I had no issues whatsoever doing that. And the connectivity issue in terms of setting it up, what I mean is a little bit confusing, but once you get your head around it, it's really intuitive, and you just switch it on and off very, very easily, and you can switch between sources again very simultaneously. Then moving from that, let's talk about the actual sound quality that you can hear. So the recording quality over here, what you can hear right now is everything that's coming, as I said before, pretty much default. What I'm going to do is show you the software, and through the software here, now you'll see the different settings. Now, first, the first setting you'll come across is actually the playback. So the playback settings are what you can hear yourself rather than what can other people hear. Now, the 2.0 settings, personally, I felt was the best sort of sound quality. You can switch it to 7.1, but 7.1 to me sounded a little bit artificial, and the sort of reverberation that you could also add was just a bit silly, in my opinion. It just didn't really add a perfectly accurate surround sound mode. But now the mode that we're more interested about over here is the recording section. And here you will hear a massive change in my voice as I switch it to warm. The warm voice really does say, as the name suggests, it kind of makes it, drops the mids in some respect and makes it slightly warmer. And then the clearer sound sounds a little bit too sibilant to my ears and a little bit too thin. So personally, I preferred the voice enhancer as off. I felt that that was the best out of the three options. Then you can mute the mic, and also you can mute the mic manually. As I said before, you can flip to mute. I will mute that in a second so you guys can see if it makes a difference, and I can guarantee you it doesn't. Other than that, you can adjust the side tone and then the noise gate, which I felt is a little bit silly, but nevertheless what it does is that it kind of limits the frequency, as you can see over here at the top, kind of trying to limit it so it kind of equalizes it. Now, one thing I should note, these little dial things are absolutely horrendous to move around. I felt that they're really annoying to do. So in this respect, I would have liked Sennheiser to actually properly implement this via the software, but unfortunately they haven't. Then you've got the noise cancellation. Now, the headset itself is actually really good at isolating your voice versus sounds at the back. So for example, when my fiance was having a shower in the background, I could hear the water in the bath coming out on my ModMic, whilst on the Sennheiser headset I couldn't hear it at all. Whereas on the noise cancelling section, that was with off, and yet over here I didn't hear any sort of background noise. Now you can adjust it, as I'm going to do right now. I'm going to move it to mid and then move it on to max, and you can potentially hear a slight little difference in terms of the compression. It sounds a little bit more compressed with the mid or high sections versus the noise cancellation as off altogether. Now, that is completely depending on your environment. There's no right or wrong over here. I like the fact they've included the option through the software, and it works as the name would suggest. Finally, in terms of the settings options through the software, you can adjust it to see if it switches on automatically or not. I felt that the show on startup is a little bit hit and miss, simply because when I have show on startup disabled, it would still flash up at the beginning and then minimize itself, which I do not want it to do, and I didn't really want to resort to CCleaner in order to disable that sort of notification. So Sennheiser, I've got a little bit of work to do through the software. However, the software itself provides a wide array of customization. Really, what I wanted to get through the software is the customization you get for the microphone itself and the microphone quality itself. You can probably be the judge yourself in terms of how it actually sounds, in my opinion, I think it's perfectly fine, and specifically due to the noise cancellation trait. However, what you will find is that it doesn't sound as open and as clear as some other microphone solutions out there, from gaming headset to the ModMic that I referenced to before. In order to prove this, what I'm going to do is switch on to my ModMic so you can hear a difference. And so now we're back again, and you can see I've got the ModMic kind of positioned in a way that I would have a headphone position. So you can hear that the sound quality is completely different. It's a lot more open. However, it's going to pick out a lot of background noises, a lot more than the actual Sennheiser headset does. So in terms of noise cancellation goes, the Sennheiser headset does a lot better. But in terms of mid-range clarity, in terms of having that really nice sort of tone that comes out from your voice, or my voice in this respect, the ModMic does a better job. So there we go, you guys could hear a difference between the ModMic and the actual GSP 670. You can be the judge yourselves. As I mentioned before, I felt that the ModMic is a little bit clearer, although it picks out background noises a lot more than the Sennheiser headset. Now moving on to the sound quality, and this is kind of the same sort of respect that I felt with the GSP 500. A lot of it will be kind of a crossover, specifically if you've already watched a review of my GSP 500. Now, what I felt is the sound felt a little bit closed. It didn't sound as open and as wide as I wanted to. Now, for a 150 odd pound headset or 200-pound headset for the GSP 500, I would accept that. But for a 300-pound headset, I would expect a lot better sound quality. In terms of, by sound quality, I mean the instrument separation, the width and depth that you get. In this respect, the GSP 670 just doesn't deliver that wide open backs type of sound, and I appreciate these are not fully open back headphones, but still I still want a really nice sort of wide soundstage. So that was my biggest complaint of the GSP 500. It is very much the same case with the 670s. Moving on from that, let's talk about the individual sound frequencies. Starting with the sub bass, I must say the GSP 670 does a great job. It extends very much to the lower end frequencies and has a really nice deep pronounced rumble. So therefore, if you're listening to music or you have a tank rolling by, you're going to hear that sort of rumble come through in your ears. Moving on to the mid bass is pretty clean and precise, and it sounds really well and controlled. It does have a massive bass impact, to say the least, so therefore you might want to EQ it via the gaming software or via any other software that you might choose to use. Moving on from that, we've got the mid-range, and that mid-bass slam, even if EQ'd, does leak into the mid-range, and therefore you get a kind of recessed V-shaped sound signature. It isn't necessarily bad, it sounds quite fun to the ears, but when we're talking about a 300-pound headset, you're really appealing to sort of audiophiles, and in this respect, I would want a headset to be delivering much more forward-sounding mids, such as the Audio-Technicas, which are wired headset alternatives at £270. They aren't cheap and they're not wireless, however, they do offer a lot more clarity in the mid-range, and of course you can get audiophile grade headphones, be it open back or closed back headphones, which will deliver much better mid-range, and then attach a ModMic to it as I demonstrated, and you will get a better mid-range clarity. As in a better mid-range clarity, a better overall solution. Then moving on to the highs, the GSP 670 again delivers quite nice high-end extension, just like the GSP 500. It can be sibilant to certain people's ears. However, in my experience, I didn't find it to be overly sibilant. I felt it extended really well and provided that sparkle. So overall, my opinions in terms of the sound quality is that this is not really anything special. It's very much similar, if not identical, to the GSP 500. It's a very good sounding headset, don't get me wrong. Most people picking it up coming from a really cheap, crappy headset will be mind blown. For people coming from an audiophile type of background that have owned headphones that cost around £300 will be pretty disappointed. Specifically, if you compare it directly to the Audio-Technica headset, the wired headset, again I have to stress that several times because it's a wired versus a wireless headset, but in terms of sound quality goes, that Audio-Technica headset is going to deliver far better instrument separation and width in terms of the soundstage and much better mid-range clarity. So overall, I think this headset does a lot right. The problem is the price. £300 is a lot of money to spend for a headset that isn't overly comfortable in terms of its clamp force, and therefore not great for people who wear, not great for people like myself who wear glasses. It's also not got the best microphone. It's a little bit close sounding and somewhat muffled. Even though it is perfectly acceptable for a £300 headset, you might expect a little bit more. And then in terms of the sound quality characteristics, I feel the sound quality could be improved rather than being pretty much the same as a GSP 500. So that's my honest opinion. I can't really say I would actively recommend this headset. If you are looking for the best quote-unquote wireless gaming headset, then yes, this technically is it. Should you buy it? That's completely up to you. There's been an unbiased, unpaid, independent review for you guys so that you can judge for yourselves and for me to share my experiences from an audiophile type of background or audio enthusiast type of background, and also for someone who's actually heard a lot of gaming headsets. Completely up to you. I just personally wouldn't see myself personally buying this headset and being perfectly happy with it after spending £300. So there we go, guys. I've been Totally Dubbed. Hopefully you've enjoyed the review. Make sure you give it a like, subscribe, favorite, and share. All that good stuff helps the channel grow, and it helps me continue doing unbiased, unpaid, and independent reviews. All right, guys. Totally Dubbed out.